guys, let's get into it. The three quarterbacks at the top of our Week 13 rankings, which again you can find at Action Network. The three quarterbacks are Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson. I don't think much of a surprise there. You could maybe make an argument for, one or two other quarterbacks who could get into the top three, but that feels pretty consensus-y. Raybon, I let Sean go first last week. So this week I'm going to kick it to you. Who are you relatively high on at the quarterback position for week 13?
So looking at the pricing on DraftKings, I think anytime you see Cam Newton at 5,800, I think you have to look at him. I know he had a terrible game against the Cardinals last week, and he's had a few of those, but you need that kind of rushing production, that rushing upside on a weekly basis. And the Chargers, they've been their defense hasn't really stopped anyone much of the year, even though they have some pieces. So I like Cam Newton at 5,800 going against the Chargers.
Sean, who are you on this week?
I like Aaron Rodgers at his price point. He's 6,800. No Patrick Mahomes on the slate, so don't have to worry about him. Russell Wilson is the highest priced QB, and Seattle's running it a little bit more than I would like right now. Deshaun Watson, he's without Will Fuller, and Kyler Murray. I don't think we could trust him right now with his shoulder. So Aaron Rodgers stands out as a truly elite play, in my opinion. He's on fire right now. He's scored at least 3 touchdowns in 5 straight games. I think Allen Lazard being back helps him in a huge way. And the only reason he ended with, just 211 yards against the Bears is they didn't put up much of a fight. So he didn't really have to keep throwing, but you could tell he was on his way to, 350 yards if he needed to. So I love him this week at 6,800, just based on the pricing of the other QBs. And the other guy is Mitch Trubisky, is probably the best cheap option at 5,400. This is an easy matchup against the Lions, of course. The Bears actually have a higher team total right now than the Chargers, Cardinals, or Falcons, which is weird to say, but they should be able to put up points this week. And if Nick Foles is inactive again, that helps Trubisky because we don't need to worry about an in-game benching. But obviously, if Nick Foles is healthy enough to be active and there's QB controversy or anything like that, I'll probably back off. So Trubisky's GPP only play for me this week.
Sean, you mentioned Rodgers, and he's popping in almost all of the DraftKings models that we have at Fantasy Labs. As you mentioned, just kind of truly elite production that we've been seeing out of him recently. A guy I'm high on, and I already know that in my stomach, this is painful, and I want to adjust the projections down, and I probably will, but I'm high right now on Kirk Cousins at home going against Jacksonville. The Jags have allowed the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. They're 30th in defensive pass DVOA. If you look at our Vegas dashboard, you see that the Vikings have a slate high implied Vegas total of 30.5 points. Even if he doesn't get a lot of yards, I think he will have multiple opportunities to get passing touchdowns. So he's someone I'm high on right now as a streamable quarterback. And normally I never want Kirk Cousins or anyone of that general ilk, just because I think they don't have enough upside. But this week, I think he might be someone I actually take a look at. Raybon, who are you low on?
So I think we have to be a little bit careful with Kyler Murray. He just doesn't look quite as explosive or effective since that shoulder injury. I mean, the game against Seattle a couple of weeks ago was disappointing. And then to follow that up, New England, coming into that game, they were bottom 2-3 in almost every defensive metric. So this is not a New England defense, even with Belichick, that we're used to seeing, and 2 straight bad performances. Now you're going against this Rams defense that has been one of the best in the league all year long, top 5 in points versus opposing quarterbacks in fantasy. So Kyler Murray at 7,600. You're never going to completely ignore him in like a tournament setting, but I think it's time to kind of look at some of the other guys at the top, because he's in a stretch of the season where he just seems to be struggling. It's probably something to do with that shoulder.
Sean, I have a feeling that you might have just gotten sniped there. I definitely got sniped. Murray was the guy I was going to talk about. Normally you would have him locked into the top 3, maybe the number 1 overall fantasy quarterback. This week, I have him around number 7. And Raybon, as you mentioned, with that shoulder injury, he's not throwing as well, but really he's not running as much. And that is the key thing. He gets most of his value with his legs. And if he's not running, he's still, I think, a quarterback 1, but you do have to, you do have to adjust your assumptions down for him. Sean, who are you low on?
Yeah, you guys sniped Kyler Murray from me. I think it's pretty clear that the shoulder injury is bugging him. Yeah, I thought, he'd probably run the ball more and he'd still have a pretty high floor, but that doesn't appear to be the case as well. So we kind of have to stay away from him, especially at 7,600 against this Rams defense. The other guy I'm a bit low on, comparatively speaking, would be Josh Allen. I'm just downgrading him a tad after his dreadful performance against the Chargers. He's obviously a very volatile player and could bounce back as the QB1 this week, but we're probably not debating, like, Freeman, you and I, sometimes we accidentally have him projected as a QB1 overall, and we're kind of double checking things. He's pretty solidly in the mid QB1 range right now. He's more like the Josh Allen we remember from last year than this, MVP candidate from early in the season. I think one of the things that we need to consider is, without John Brown, he does seem to lack that true ceiling. He's averaged 26.6 fantasy points with John Brown in the lineup and only 18.4 fantasy points without John Brown, which is still good. But I think it's one of those things where John Brown might be that key to unlocking his ceiling. So I'm a bit low on him. The next couple weeks, he has a tougher matchup against the Niners, who have Richard Sherman back. They look like they're coming back to life. And then he has the Steelers next week. So just downgrade your expectations for him. You got to start him, obviously. But hopefully he'll be back to his elite self come fantasy playoffs, and hopefully he'll get John Brown back by then.
All right, one guy we haven't mentioned, Taysom Hill. And I am imagining, Sean, that maybe the quarterback prop for week 13 has to do with Taysom Hill, but maybe not, because we've kind of been down that road before. And maybe it would be a little too embarrassing to Chris Raybon if we talked too much about Taysom Hill. But Sean, give us the quarterback prop for week 13, which, by the way, I should say, I'm cutting back in. I should say that everyone should check out the Fantasy Labs prop tool, where the props with the bet quality of 10 have a 60% win rate over the past 2 years. And of course, when player props are posted, you can bet them at BetMGM. Okay, Sean, give us the prop.
Taking a break from Saints props this week, so it's not Taysom Hill. It's Deshaun Watson. His passing yards this week against the Colts, without Will Fuller, without Randall Cobb, without Kenny Stills. What are we doing with him? I have his over-under set at 272.5.
This is one of the rare instances in which I will be taking an under on you, Sean, but it's pretty close. I have it at 268.5.
I have it a little bit higher than that, so I'll go. I think I'm gonna have to lower it. I'm gonna go under, but just by a hair. I had it just by a hair, but I'm gonna lower it about a tenth. If I lower his YPA by a tenth, it goes under. So I'm going under. The Colts are a tough matchup, and that's a lot of firepower to lose when you're talking about not only Will Fuller, but also Kenny Stills, who was a pretty reliable wide receiver 4. Now you have Kiki QT, who's more of a slot receiver. So just a different type of receiver that they're kind of subbing in there in this rotation.